Good evening, everyone. I'm your host for tonight, and I am Gary Baumgarten tonight. Well, no, actually, I'm still Cassandra Wood, but I'm in place of Gary tonight, who is out on an assignment. Welcome here to News Talk Online. News Talk Online is a production of paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users. We're on demand on iTunes, on iPod, on Blip TV, and on GaryBaumgarten.com, where you're encouraged to post your comments, whether you agree with him or not. And he says there's no retribution, but he will take you to task in here, or he'll question you in here. I'd also like to say a big thanks to our friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, where we're syndicated to an additional 12 million households. Welcome to the show. A reminder that to keep up with the news you may or may not see, hear, or read on mainstream media, please go to our site. It is an absolutely brilliant site. It's www.reportergary.com, and there you will see things and get the up-to-date news as it happens, and reports from out in the field, out there with our correspondents who live in far-flung places like Jersey City and Texas and Rhode Island and Pakistan and Australia and Germany and England and Scotland and South Dakota, wherever. Anyway, sorry, I'm being flippant here. It's probably because I had an hour's warning of the show tonight, and so I'm allowed to be a little flippant. Anyway, it's getting near the end of the week. It's we are at Thursday already, but I want to sort of follow up on some things that have we've heard about before. First of all, let's go over to the United Kingdom, to Karen. Karen, I wouldn't like to hazard a guess at what you're going to talk about.
Well, Cass, I was thinking sumo wrestling tonight, just for a change. Baroness Worsey. Sorry. This woman, oh dear, I've been reading about her and I've listened to her, and the thing that's annoyed me most about what she's been talking about today is the fact that she's used it to let everyone know about the speech that she's given at Leicester University. She's used it to publicise this particular speech that she's making, because she knows that anything that mentions Islam or Muslims is going to get into the media and get people talking. Now, past the dinner table test. I don't know how many dinner tables in this country she sat around, but believe me, prejudice against Muslims, in fact prejudice against anybody, is never mentioned at our dinner table. She is doing this to cause trouble. She mentions that... Okay, I'll just read this. Baroness Worsey will say anti-Muslim prejudice is now seen by many Britons as normal and uncontroversial, and she will use her position to fight an ongoing battle against bigotry. Who are the bigots in this country, Cass? Who are the ones who are prejudiced against? I see that there was a case in the news earlier where a man has been accused of, it hasn't been proved, accused of burning a Quran. So, of course, he's arrested immediately. I have to wonder what would happen if somebody had burned a Bible. The prejudice in this country is no longer against Muslims. But there was one thing I did want to point out. She talks about Muslims have now been divided into two factions. You've got the terrorists and the moderates. It's not a big leap of imagination to predict where the talk of moderate Muslim leads. In the factory where they've just hired a Muslim worker, the boss says to his employees not to worry, he's only fairly Muslim. In the school, the kids say the family next door are Muslim, but they're not too bad. People don't talk like this, Cass. People don't talk about Muslims in that way. She is causing trouble with this, and it's annoyed me beyond belief. I'm going to sit down now and start ranting. Thank you.
I don't know. For a start, I'm not quite sure, sort of which dinner table she's sitting round. But I'm sure she's been to a lot of dinners, and I would imagine that a lot of those are probably political dinners, and I'm sure they talk shop there. So, they used to say that the things that you should never discuss in polite society were religion, politics, and money. And of course, I'm sure we do. I have to say that I am far more concerned about what the government is doing than I am about, sort of what Muslims are doing. Because it's just not the thing that's on the tip of my tongue all the time. I'm not concerned. I am concerned if there's a terrorist attack. Yes, of course I am. Whether it's a terrorist attack that's done by the IRA or whether it's one that's done by Muslims or any other extremist faction. But I don't say that we sit around our dinner table, and we do sit around our dinner table, unlike some people who sit in front of the television and don't actually converse. That this is the case, but I have to agree. I think that she is being contentious. I think that she is she's highlighting something. What really worries me is that she is on a crusade about raising this as an issue. Well, of course, it will become an issue if she raises it as an issue. For goodness sake. It was quite interesting. She's a Conservative peer, and she stood as a Conservative candidate. Yet it was she was supported in that candidacy was actually Lord Ahmed, who is a Labour peer. So I find that quite interesting. I think that it sort of speaks to the intent, but we have to give things. What also annoys me, quite frankly, is that she has Muslims categorized. She has her own people categorized. She says you're either a fair Muslim or you're a terrorist, an extremist or a moderate. I am sure that there are shades of Muslim in between. What about the Muslims who are not they're not religious? They're not they're not interested in sort of being regular adherents. Let's carry on with our subject. Actually, there was one more subject that I wanted to introduce just before we go to Eric and Jerry and Robert, who are the next three in the line. And I'd like to take your views on this. Ralph, you were telling me today about an item on the news about MTV.
Yes, Cassandra, how you doing? It seems MTV has a new series called Skins, and they're being accused of using kids under 18. And the Parent Television Council, this is an organization, the Parent Television Council, wants law officials to look into the accusations they're making that they're using kids under 18, and it's basically kiddie porn. So MTV is being accused of using kiddie porn. If you have a look on the Fox news site, the story's there actually. You can have a look at it yourself. But very interesting that somebody's coming out and saying to MTV, hey, you're going too far, you're starting to use kids that are too young, and you're starting to show too much. Now there was a mention of, oh, they use foul language and there's violence and there's this and that going on, and I thought, well, that's all television. But when they started mentioning using kids under 18, for what looks like kiddie porn, and I haven't seen any of this stuff, so I don't know, I can't say. But that's the accusation, Cass. Back to you.
Well, I think that's quite fascinating. And is this something that we ought to be mindful of? Ought there to be some sort of legislation about this, about using underage or young people and exploiting them? And you talk about the language. I think if you ever listened to the words of some of the songs, you'd never let them pass your lips, as it were, because I think that they are absolutely absolutely disgusting. So I think I'm reading something from Don. Taco Bell has pulled the ads off Skins after the Parents Television Council urged a boycott. Spokesman Rob Poige tells The Hollywood Reporter, "We advertise on a variety of MTV programs that reach our core demographics of 18 to 34-year-olds, which included the premiere episode of Skins. Upon further review, we've decided that the show is not fit for our brand and have moved on our advertising to other MTV programs." Well, that I think gives you a bit of a commentary on that. Thank you very much for that, Ralph. I have to say that I'm not a watcher of MTV. I may click on it occasionally when I'm going to something else, but I think that is But I'd be interested to hear what you think about the whole concept of using underage children and exploiting underage children. Were people like Michael Jackson and the Osmonds exploited when younger, and has that affected them as they've got older? Not necessarily in terms of kiddie porn, as this Skins program is, but in general terms. Let's go back to our callers, and I'm sorry to have kept you waiting for so long, Eric. And yes, I do think that atheists have a moral code that they stand by. Thank you. Mike, to you.
Oh, thank you, Cassandra. Well, the reason I posted that question originally was because a lot of theists hear the word atheist and they kind of like think, oh, no morals, no ethics, no values, no nothing or whatever. And that's not necessarily the case, but I'm digressing here. Getting to the topic at hand, when it comes to young people being exploited, we exploit them in our culture in many different ways. We exploit them through the military by sending them off to die in war. We exploit them through the use of commercials. We exploit them by brainwashing them. So beauty pageants is another example. And really the problem is that a lot of folks are against exploiting them for sex, but they have no problem exploiting them, sending them off to die for multinational corporations. So if we're going to start picking and choosing our moral battles, maybe we should take a look at the whole picture as to where we should be as a society, rather than just focusing on sexuality. We should look at everything our culture does to exploit young people. So that was my thought.
And I would agree with you entirely, Eric. I think that we do exploit the young in a variety of ways. We use them as the stick to beat people with. We use them on TV advertising, and all this sort of thing. But I think that sort of the ways in which we exploit them through things like beauty pageants and that sort of thing, I think is absolutely reprehensible. And certainly, if a child has talent, then I think that that's fine. But I think if you put them in the position where the only thing that they have in their lives is that, then I think that's wrong. But to go to a deeper question that a deeper point that you were making, I think, is that you have to look at the values in society, and have we as a society, are we as bad as the Victorians, who in the United Kingdom used to send their kids up the chimneys to sweep, who used to send them into dangerous situations because they were small or they had small hands and they could do intricate things? Do we exploit them in the same way that the Victorians actually exploited them? And I think perhaps in a more sophisticated way we possibly do. So that's an interesting thought. Oh gosh, we've overrun the time again, so I shall say good night to you. Now, I am not sure whether Gary's going to be here tomorrow or I'm going to be here tomorrow, but one of us will. But for tonight, I'll say good night, and as Gary always says, peace out.